That the whole message?
You just do your
Okay.
open.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Thank you. The meeting is called to order. The Washington Medical Commission meeting that is on Friday, May 14th. Amelia, you have some, I don't know why we call this housekeeping, but we're like rules. But, go ahead and tell us your story.
All right. Good morning and thank you for joining us for our business meeting today. This meeting is being recorded. The business meeting packet is available on the event calendar of our website, which is wmc.wa.gov. The documents for the two rules which will be discussed during the Policy Committee agenda item are available in the handout section of this webinar. I am Amelia Boyd and I am the Program Manager for the Medical Commission. Jimmy Bush and I are the organizers for this meeting. Panelists, please be sure to mute yourself if you are not speaking. Attendees are automatically muted. Please note that anything posted to the chat or questions section is considered public record. We will take public comment at this meeting. Once we get to that item, the chair, Mr. Malden, will read a script and then ask for public comment. If you would like to comment, please use the raise your hand feature or add your comments to the question section. Our time for public comment is limited and each speaker is likely to only have about 2 minutes to speak. With that, I will hand it back to Mr. Malden for his chair report.
Thank you, Amelia. First item I have to talk about today is that the governor's office has finally appointed 2 new physician commissioners for congressional districts 2 and 8. And I see that Dr. Sarah Lyle is attending this morning. Hi. The other commissioners, Dr. Gallinger, I'm not sure if he is in attendance or not. Initially, he said he would not be. But if you are attending, Dr. Gallinger, could you identify yourself at this point? Okay, true to his word, he didn't show up today. Dr. Lyle, I would like you to make a few comments, if you like, about how you see your role at the commission and what you intend to do as a commissioner. Put you on the spot right away.
Yes, indeed. So I'm board certified in family practice with an emphasis in adolescent medicine. I have a CAQ in adolescent medicine, and I am really looking. Well, I'll start out by being quiet and listening carefully to everyone and at the processes and so on of the commission. But I just am here to serve the profession and to help move things forward. I like processes. I like human behavior. I like thinking about how things can be better. And I just bring a curiosity and a willingness to learn and work.
So we like all those things that you like, because that's what we're all about. So welcome. I just want to say that it does take a little while to get in the groove. And so I think you'll feel like a little lost for the first year or so, but I'm sure you'll get going soon thereafter. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Drs. Mary Curtis and Dr. Alan Brown for their willingness to step up and fill in as temporary full-time RCMs while the governor's office was doing their homework in appointing their 2 new commissioners. So thank you very much, the 2 of you. I know you're both pro tems. I assume you will continue to work on the commission in your pro tem capacity. But again, a very warm thank you for all that you've done and filling in on those two positions. And with that, maybe a warm applause for Dr. Lyle, Dr. Brown, and Dr. Curtis. You're muted. Okay. Oh, yeah, another very important change. We need to welcome back Micah Matthews. Micah has been on paternity leave for some time and has returned to work. So welcome back, Micah. We're looking forward to working with you today. And I assume you are attending this morning, although I can't see you.
I can see you, Micah.
I can see him. He's there. He's there. He looks ready to go too.
Uh, During a recent, very recent, our last executive committee meeting, an issue was raised that has been raised in the past. I thought I'd just mention it just briefly. The question was, what's the basis for reimbursement for commissioners doing commission work? Melanie had done a pretty extensive review analysis and put a lot of information together on a matrix, and it's very interesting data. It shows that Washington pays the second highest in the nation for reimbursement for commission work. 2 states are ahead of Washington, but they both pay the same amount. It's also interesting to note that there are 10 states that don't pay anything. It's strictly volunteer work. But the matrix that Melanie put together also identifies the number of commissions on boards. It identifies terms and number of terms that can be served and so forth. So I will send that out to all of you just as an informational item, and enjoy the read. With that, I have concluded everything I have to say from the chair. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes approval of the April 9th business meeting minutes, as well as the business meeting minutes or business meeting agenda for today.
Really? Oh my gosh. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Are there any comments about either of those 2 items by commissioners? I see Terry shaking her head no. Okay.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Alden, did you?
I was just going to move to approve the minutes.
Oh, thank you. Is there a second? Oh, thank you,
Second.
Terry.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Or raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is new business. Amelia will talk about a change to the July 2022 meeting.
Yes, thank you. So on your screen, you can see that our current approved dates are July 7th and 8th, but there's also a holiday that week, and that's problematic for some of the staff having a shortened week during commission meeting week. So we're proposing to move it to the week before, which is June 30th and July 1st.
Are there
counter
comments?
proposal? Yeah, I would rather see it go to the 14th and 15th. The holiday weekend is often a time when people travel to see their families. I know I do. So I personally wouldn't make it that week if it was the 30th and the 1st.
I wouldn't either, Diana. It's Chris. I will be out of town.
So we can do that. However, the May meeting, that would make it 8 weeks, I think. I'd have to pull a calendar to count. It may be 7, but that would be all of June, and then it would be into the 3rd week of July. So that would be 7 weeks. If that's not an issue for staff, then I can move it to the following week.
I would just point out, we actually have 8 weeks between this meeting and the next meeting as we sit here today.
And from a fiscal payroll cutoff perspective, having it not on June 30th, July 1st would be helpful.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in moving the meeting to the 14th and 15th of July, 2022. Is that a correct assessment? If so, do we have a motion to move the July 2022 meeting date to July 14 and 15?
Motion to move the meeting date.
Second, although I may have an appointment that the morning of the 14th for breakfast with somebody, but that should still work for me.
I have a meeting on the 14th. Why can't we do 15 and 16 as of Thursday, Friday as our typical?
No, this is for next year.
Next year, so the 14th.
I will be out of it. I won't be on the commission then, right?
I
Some
can't
of us,
remember.
You might be.
for some of us, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I'm in the same position, Yangling, but it depends if a replacement's actually been appointed or not.
Okay. Thanks.
All in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is committee work group reports. The written reports are found on page 14 of your agenda. Are there any late breaking comments or updates to the existing reports that we need to discuss this morning? I'm assuming everybody has had an opportunity to fumble for their unmute and there are no comments. The next item on the agenda is rulemaking activities. We've had a little bit of action there. Amelia, would you like to let us know what's going on?
So I don't have anything new to report outside of what will be discussed during the policy committee report.
That could be exciting. We had a lengthy conversation yesterday at the policy committee. This time, the agenda item is public comment. I will read the script. We will now be, well, let me first ask Amelia, has anyone signed up to speak?
Oh, we do have one hand raised.
Good. We will now begin the portion of the business meeting to take public comment. The purpose is to allow members of the public to directly address the commission on issues of public concern. Please refrain from providing comments on pending or open investigations or disciplinary cases. We will not be answering questions or responding. Staff will be available after the meeting to answer your questions. Please understand that although the time period for comment during the business meeting is limited, the public can attend and provide comment at commission committee meetings. The public can also contact staff during normal hours. We additionally welcome written comments. Each commenter will have 2 minutes to speak. When you comment, please state your name and who you represent. And Amelia, can you identify the member who would like to speak?
Yes, Amy, if you would like to go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you very much. This is Amy Brackenberry. I'm here representing the Washington State Society of Anesthesiologists. And this will be a little bit redundant for those of you on the policy committee, but I just wanted to again express our appreciation for the work of staff and the members on the workshop and the policy committee for all of the time and attention paid to the proposed rules on physician's assistants, particularly around the pieces putting parameters around the practice of general and intrathecal anesthesia. I think this represents a good compromise. The proposed language from the policy committee incorporates important patient safety measures, but also allows existing practitioners to continue their work. And I just wanted to say, I think that the delay that you all approved last month gave us the necessary time to do a little bit more digging into the issue, and I think that the proposed rules that the policy committee will be putting forward are strong, and wanted to let you all know of our support. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Amy. Are there other commenters, Amelia?
Yes, we do have one other hand raised. Chelsea, if you would like to go ahead.
Thanks, Amelia, and good morning, everyone. My name is Chelsea Hager. I'm the contract lobbyist for the Washington Academy of Physician Assistants, and I will also be a little bit redundant for those of you who were participating in the policy committee yesterday. I just wanted to echo some of the comments that Amy just made with regard to an appreciation for the time that was spent by the commission to kind of slowly and carefully develop the rules related to House Bill 2378. And just a couple comments about the specific rules. I think, the PAs would have preferred to see a rule that allowed for some on-the-job training, but appreciate that there was a provision that allowed grandfathering of any PAs that are currently providing general or intrathecal anesthesia. So appreciate, again, the time that's been spent on this, and look forward to future efforts as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else, Amelia?
Yes, one last one. Melissa, if you would like to go ahead, Melissa Johnson.
Thank you, Amelia. My name is Melissa Johnson, and I represent the Washington Association of Nurse Anesthetists. Just want to echo Amy and Chelsea's comments. They said it very well. We also appreciate the Commission's work on the physician assistant rulemaking specific to the anesthesia section. The rules workshops were very helpful and very inclusive, encouraging public comment and discourse. And we also feel good about the result that came out of the rules workshop and the policy committee this week. So just again, adding my thanks to the Commission.
Thank you for those comments, Melissa. Anyone else, Amelia?
That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you all for those comments. A lot of work went into the rulemaking. This concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. I want to thank you for your comments. Again, you may provide written comments at any time. We will now move on to the policy committee report. Dr. Domino.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Really want to thank all the stakeholders who also spoke today, and the group who worked this out, which I think with Jim Anderson leading that group. I was flying back from Hawaii, so I didn't participate, but I was very pleased to be able to see the results, as I think we all did. So you have the document in your file. The policy committee approved this. We felt it basically was a compromise from all the stakeholders and came up with, as Jim said, making sausage, in a good sausage in terms of the policy. So we recommend approval. Anyone have any comments about this? Yes, Teresa.
I'd just like to thank Jim as well. He really bent over backwards to make this work, reaching out to all of the parties that were interested, and did a great job. So thank you, Mr. Anderson, and I'd like to give him a round of applause.
Can I applaud for myself?
You should. Yeah, definitely. Great job.
Thanks. Could I make a comment?
Yes,
also?
definitely.
Yeah, it was really interesting process, and in the end, I felt sort of moved by the amount of energy that people put into it, and I felt there was an effort to, in a very civil way, discuss concerns and differences and try and find common ground. And it really, I don't know, for me, it was sort of moving and a good model for how how policy should be made, both here and in bigger arenas. So it was really great, and I really appreciated the input from all the stakeholders and from the people who spoke today. It was wonderful to to hear their voices and hear what they had to say. And I thought we ended up doing integrating all the things, and I am in the end pleased. So it was a really positive experience for me, and I think that the public will be protected, which is of course what we all care about, first and foremost, by the wording that we came up with. So thanks to all.
I think it'd be a good idea, Karen, if we highlighted the most controversial provision in the document having to do with education, just so there's clarity. A lot of time was spent. There were a lot of interest on the part of the stakeholders on the ultimate wording that was come up with. So I don't know who's the appropriate person, either Jim or Karen, to talk about.
Well, Karen, I'd be glad to.
Yeah,
this.
Jim, you were there, so
Yeah,
so if
sure.
you want to talk about it, looks like it is on there on the screen. So please go and
Great, thank you, and Teresa, Karen, anybody else who was there, let me know. But the law that has guided this rules effort basically said that, directed us to clarify the roles of PAs in intrathecal and general anesthesia. And so there was quite robust discussion, as I've heard people say, and it was civil and robust about this. And so we, with number 3 here, we started off by saying PAs can administer anesthesia except for what you see in subsection 4. And there was some discussion about, well, should we include regional anesthesia or local or mild to moderate sedation? I mean, anesthesia is a very complex field with, as Karen knows much better than I, with many different categories of anesthesia. But we ended up all agreeing that both the commission and really the staff and the stakeholders as well, that what we should be doing is commenting on intrathecal and general anesthesia, which is what we did. And so there were 3 components of what were proposed. What we ended up with was saying a PA can do intrathecal or general anesthesia, or they can participate in that if they complete a accredited anesthesiology assistant program. There is no such program in Washington. There are programs in 17 states, I believe. So that was one thing that we all agreed could be a criteria. Another was B was sort of a grandparent clause. I'm sorry, but I keep insisting on saying grandparent because I think I want to change that. But anyway, grandfather, grandparent. B was for a PA who has already been doing these things before this rule takes place, and who has a valid practice agreement that spells that out. We don't exactly know how many PAs there are doing this. We think it's very few, if any. And there was some frustration on the part of a few stakeholders about not being able to know exactly how many PAs are doing this. And Jimmy Bush did a really nice presentation about the data that she had gathered, looking at practice plans of supervising physicians who are anesthesiologists and what their practice plan spelled out. But we basically know it's few. It's very few to any, but we don't know exactly how many. But that was also agreed upon by the commissioners and by the stakeholders that this would be good. And what we took out was a section that allowed for, quote, on the job training, unquote, of PAs. And this was I wouldn't say a contentious point, but it was a point where there was a lot of discussion. But in the end, it was decided by all that we would take that out. So what's left is for a PA to perform intrathecal or general anesthesia, the most sensitive and the most really, as my understanding, the most risky kinds of anesthesia. They need to be either have completed a anesthesiology assistant program, or they must already have been doing it and have a valid practice plan prior to this. So those were the main points, and I think we all in the end agreed that we could accept this language, and we thought it would be good, and we thought it would help protect the public, and that we should move forward with this language. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot. Any other comments? Yes, Claire. Claire, I don't hear you. I can't tell if you're talking.
I can see her mouth moving.
Yeah. Hey, Claire, if you could unmute yourself, or perhaps we have the problem of needing to call in. We see your hands moving. Yeah, that's lovely. I think we're all looking forward to when we have in-person meetings again. Any other comments?
Teresa, do you think that captures what we talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. There's having support of the commission and of physician assistant practice is super important in this state. And we've been really lucky that we have some of the best practice laws in the country. This law, with the change in it, still allows physician assistants to have a strong practice, and it allows for the safety of patients. And that's what we're looking for. That's what we want to be able to do. And yeah, no, I would agree with everything else you said, Jim.
Christine, you were as another voting member of the panel. Do you have anything to add, or do you think we've covered that?
I think you covered it very well, and I'm glad to see that we came to a conclusion that was suitable for everyone. So you're right, there was a lot of good, robust discussion, but in the end, we made a good, I think we put together a good rule.
Great. Well, thanks to all. Any other comments about it? Claire, you could try a chat. I don't know how to do the chat with the GoToWebinar. Fortunately, I'm more familiar with Zoom. Any other comments? Okay, well, the policy committee did approve this document, and so I'd like to have a vote of the commission to approve this.
Motion to approve.
What?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Great.
Good work.
We don't need a second at all, and all in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Okay.
And anyone opposed to this? Claire, we can't hear you. I didn't see your hand raised, so if you are opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, well, this passes. Thanks, great work, everyone. Jim, Teresa, the whole crew. It was really, really great to see. It was like a great present coming back from Hawaii and seeing what excellent work was done. All right, now we have another rulemaking activity which does need additional work. Teresa, you want to say something?
Just real quickly, I don't know if Dr. Turman is here today, but he was also very helpful. He's one of our pro tem members, and he was also very, very helpful in setting this up. And I wanted to make sure we reached out to thank him personally.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because I know when I realized the date it was and I was flying on the airplane at that time, I asked Greg to be able to help and serve, and he had to modify his schedule, and he really did work hard on this too. So thank you very much, Teresa, for pointing that out. I know and it's good to have a public acknowledgement. I know I just sent him an email a while back for thanking him for this.
Karen, I'm sorry. Just add one thing. Just add one thing as far as the Greg Turman fan club. But he on a really busy Saturday when he was on call and he had much to do. He took an hour out of his schedule to talk to me about this, and it was really really appreciated. So I would just echo what Teresa said. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. I mean, I think that interaction personally beforehand also really does help clarify some of the issues that are there, since a lot of times
Karen,
we don't understand each other's issues. Claire is there.
Hey, Karen, thank you. Mostly I want to test that I can actually talk. You may be sorry that I've got this function going, but Jim, I'm curious about the timing that this goes into effect, and if people have the process is written out so that these grandfathered people aren't caught up short. Do they have enough warning about it going into effect so that the paperwork is intact? I just had some curiosity about that.
Well, Claire, my understanding is that if somebody has a practice plan that has an agreement between the supervising physician, who is an anesthesiologist, and the PA, who may be doing or participating in intrathecal and general anesthesia on or before when this rule takes place, that they are grandfathered in. And so we don't exactly know who or where they are, but if somebody were to come forward and say, hey, look, I mean, because the commission does have those plans and would have such a plan. And so if someone says, I've been doing this for 5 years, 10 years, and it's spelled out and approved by the commission in their practice plan, then that's fine, that's great. And if they don't, then I think that they would be unlikely to be able to continue to do that if they don't have a practice plan that's been spelled out and approved by the commission on or before the date that these rules take place, which will be pretty soon. I see Mike has got his hand up.
I mean,
So I just wanted to point out, just to address Dr. Truscott's concern about education, we certainly are going to be talking about the change in the rule in our media channels. I imagine that there will likely be a newsletter article drafted. Congratulations, Mr. Anderson and Ms. Schimels, you're probably going to write it, to communicate the change and to encourage the PAs out there that they have their practice plans shored up and to make sure that everything's in working order before the adoption date. And I would throw it to Amelia to understand when exactly the adoption date would be.
You know, I'm wondering if these are a small number of people, can't the commission contact the PAs themselves? I mean, if we're talking about not a large number, if we know who identifies themselves.
Well, we don't.
Jimmy, we didn't find any practice agreements that currently meet this requirement. So if one ever comes to our attention, we most certainly will reach out to them. And we've also reached out to the PAs that this bill affects, greatly, specifically the DO PAs. So we have done a lot of outreach to try and make sure everyone is on board, and I'm helping answer their questions. And just a shameless plug, there is a webinar on June 16th that we're asking everyone who has questions about this bill to come. We're going to answer questions. We're going to go over what's changing. We're going to point them to the resources they need. So that's June 16th at noon. So please come.
And Jimmy, a shameless plug for you is that we've also already had two webinars about where we've discussed the PA rules changes. So and they've been well attended. People have had good questions. So I think the outreach is in the word of the day, robust.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Excellent work. Any other comments? Nope, not seeing anyone. We can move on to our other rulemaking activity, and this one is one that had also quite a bit of discussion at the meeting yesterday, and this is the clinical support program rulemaking. We did not come up to an agreement about this document, and the basic problem and that I thought was worth discussing is the issue that what is this document for? In particular, is it something that we could call a STID light, which is a discipline, or is it something that just can be like a letter of concern to a physician or physician assistant? Because depending on what way it is, there are sections of this, such as section C on page 2, that's very negative. It says the commission may conduct additional investigation and consider disciplinary action if additional facts become known or circumstances change that the physician, and this is the physician document, but there's also the document with physician assistant, is no longer eligible based upon the criteria in subsection 4 in this section. And this to a number of the attendees of the policy committee meeting was very negative and alluded, made one question whether a respondent or a physician or a physician assistant would ever sign this sort of document. As also part of that, there was a suggestion to have a time limit on someone for the completion of the program and some potential adverse effect, which again puts it into more of a discipline as opposed to a support or kind of program. So I thought it was worth spending a little time and getting people's points of view of this, because that really would help guide the further rulemaking activity of this. So I heard Alden talking about it before. Alden, did you?
Yeah, I'm happy to, although I'm interested to hear what other commission members are. The question that I have in my mind is this an extension of A3 closure, in which what we're doing is sending a note to somebody saying, we have concerns about how you're practicing and here is a mechanism for improving, versus, as you mentioned earlier, a STID light, in which case it is, if you don't finish this by such and such a time period, we will reassess and reevaluate. And I think, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but it did not seem as though those of us on policy committee had a clear idea of what it was we wanted this to accomplish, and we wanted to open this up to the whole commission.
That's correct. Dr. Small.
So since I've been involved, I think with this from the get-go, however long ago it was, Amelia said it was 6 years. Just for historical context, when the discussions around this first started, it was from the perspective of this commission actually does not have authority from the legislature to issue a letter of concern or a letter of education or whatever you might like to call it. And the legislature has, when approached, not been favorable to giving us the authority to do that. As I think everyone knows, quite a few other medical boards and commissions in other states are able to do that. So the original thinking was looking at this as a way to address that particular issue. I think a couple of things that have evolved over time. One is, as Alden was just mentioning, the A3 closure has evolved away from its original intent into essentially now being used in that kind of capacity when we have concerns about physician or PA's practice that do not rise to the level of a violation that would warrant a STID. The other thing that occurred over time as we had workshops is I think we moved away from the concept of a substitution for a letter of concern more towards the concept of physicians or PAs who were, and I'm going to paraphrase Alden here, but who were on the cliff but hadn't yet gone over the cliff. And this is a way to try to help them put some practice changes into place to prevent them from going over the cliff. So again, I'm just saying all that just from some historical context as someone who's been involved in this for a while.
Thank you. Does anyone, we'd like to hear from other folks as well about what they see this. Diana, I see you.
Yeah.
So,
Like, oh.
Diana, go ahead.
Diana first.
Okay. I just want to give the other end of the spectrum from Dr. Small, which is a relatively new commissioner, and I'm coming up on 2 years. I've heard many, many times this idea of, I wish we had a way to tell this person, you know, be careful. Exactly what you just described. They're on the edge of the cliff. They haven't gone over. It doesn't rise to the level. We don't want it to go to the National Practitioner Database, but we want to really tell them we're concerned. And I feel like the number of times I've heard us wish that that existed far outweighs, if I can even remember, you know, the sort of the STID light version of the idea. So I feel like instilling the needs of our role to help improve the care across Washington, public safety and all of that, having a mechanism by which to fulfill our wish to have that, to me makes the most sense, which is that kind of extension of the A3, not the STID light version that Alden mentioned.
Yeah, I would like to comment, you know, I'm not medical profession. I want to speak from public's perspective. I have been involved with this rulemaking since the beginning. I didn't participating in every public workshop on this particular rulemaking committee, but I have come around the corner. Before I became the commission, we heard about this, that the commission is going to have this type of procedures. And at the time, I was supported, but have lots of concerns. But now, after I serve on the commission and have been reviewing cases and hear commissioners' concerns about it, I feel like this is a very good, effective tool to address a regulatory gap that we couldn't address with our normal procedures. And you know, there are many other boards around the country that also had the tool called letter of concerns, but I don't feel they were doing as good as we are proposing. That is, we also follow up on the education program. We especially point out what would be a risk that could be, like Dr. Small said, drop off a cliff. And we try to prevent this from happening, not just from the physician's practice perspective, but also for protecting the public, not to end up injuring patient or harm patient. So I feel like this is the whole idea why we have this. As Dr. Curry mentioned that many times, we heard many times, we wish we had this. And then another comment I want to make, that I was at the yesterday policy meeting. As I commented that at the previous day's workshop, I raised the same concerns as Ms. Malden raised, but I think Mike responded, and then I thought about more about this particularly item C. Then I saw that this is not really a threatening sentence to physicians, LPAs, because at the beginning we said what would be eligible, who would be eligible, and what condition would apply to this, this program, and then we put it up front and saying that this is type of things that we would, if things come up, that doesn't mean the commission or the RCM or the attorney staff or the investigator is going to dig into it. as I mentioned yesterday, what if something come up and then there is a really involved patient death? Are we looking at it or not? I would suppose that we're still gonna look at it, but we should put in the front and you say, if there's something come up, we will look at it. That is from the perspective of to better protect the public safety and also make a physician more informed, but when they sign into it, this whole program is a voluntary in nature. And if we put front that this is what the condition and this is might happen, I doubt that this would happen actually, but this might happen, this is what we're gonna do, then they are free to decide whether they want to get into this program now. So that is not threatening to them. So that is my perspective to look at this. The bottom line is the commission has a duty to work with physicians to improve their practice and to protect the public. So that's why I think we should stay with. So that's my comment. Sorry for quite long.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments about it? I'm not sure I see. Oh, Scott, is that right? Did I see your hand?
Yes, I'm sorry. Almost apologetic to keep belaboring it. I think one of the concerns was why would any physician and what legal counsel in their right mind would advise a clinician to invite the police in to watch every move that you make and may be able to get you on any other violation you might find. And I don't know really how to address those concerns. I mean, as a commission, we can't adopt like a criminal law of evidence here and say, you know, if we see something that is only that we would not have seen but for this program, we won't impose discipline against you, because that would run afoul of our own mandate and enabling statute from the legislature. So I think it's a real concern, but maybe we can address this a little way. I've seen some cases. I saw a good case yesterday that without getting to the details of it or identifying it, that I thought would have been a good case for this. I think we could perhaps back in committee consider some language about how if a physician were in this program, maybe it could be considered a mitigating factor should something arise. And there are cases where we've had similar complaints in the past, and discipline is likely if we get a similar complaint in the future. And maybe there is a carrot to engage in this, even though from the physician's perspective, it is inviting the police to look over your shoulder.
Great. Dr. Small, I think I saw first, and then I'll get to Dr. Trescott.
So just to address a couple of things that you said, Scott. So through all of the workshops, we've definitely had a lot of discussion around the issue of, you know, would a physician or PA even agree to this? And I think that's an unresolved issue at this point. Again, I would think, and we'd want to present this, that our intent is to stop someone from going over the cliff and getting into a STID or SOC territory. You know, if there's a way to write this so that's more clear, that's certainly something to be looked at. But the other point I wanted to make, and Jimmy really made a good point about this in the workshop, the intent of this is not to monitor the physician or PA through the process. If we feel we need to monitor, then we're in STID territory at that point. So the intent is that we would say, here's what we would like you to do. You signed an agreement to it. Come back and let us know when you've done that within a certain time period. We're not going to check up on you. You know, we're not going to be actively going into further investigation unless something comes to our attention that we need to investigate. But again, you know, maybe there's some way to make that more clear in the language of this.
And I'll also add, I'm actually in support of this as the language reads. I'm just bringing issues forward I heard some other folks raise. So I'm not expressing disapproval. I actually approve of this as the language is.
Thank you. Dr. Trescott.
I think this is a great policy to have. And I was thinking about when I was reviewing all the different opioid cases as we changed the rules. And we actually had, I saw a few physicians that self-reported. They had deaths or adverse outcomes and reported themselves to us. And really were asking for guidance on did they do anything wrong. And I think that it was a teaching moment more than anything else. And we had no tools to use to teach what are the changes, how can you best follow them, and what is the safest way to address this. So I think that this would, if we had this in effect, it would really help versus being able to just tell them yes or no, there's a major problem here. A lot of these aren't black and white, and again, I had physicians actually asking the commission for guidance, and this would have helped. So I think it's a great policy.
Any other comments about this? You know, really, if Alden, yeah.
Well, this is just real quick. WSMA made the comment yesterday that they had only received this the day prior and hadn't had an opportunity to more thoroughly explore it. And if by putting this off and having another chance for them to bring in their concerns, I think that's an advantage to us also. So we would look forward to anything that anybody has in the arena of those who would be governed by this to bring it to our attention so that we can consider those and as we come up with our final words.
Yeah, thank you, Alden.
May I make another comment?
Sure. I don't hear you now.
All right. I just invite you all to think about a scenario that when a case that when we negotiate or discuss with a physician and PA for this program, and then they decided yes, they would like to, they got into the program, and then they finished, then the case will be closed. But as the language says, it's not that we actively looking for, it's just some things happen that we found out. Are we going to open another case to investigate it, or are we not if things is serious enough? And also, not all investigation actually involved lead to sanction. So I don't know, again, I don't know why this taken it as a negative term. And as I said yesterday, this would be way also as a legal protection for the commission.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments about this? Please feel free to provide written comments to Mike Farrell or Amelia about this. And it will be going back to, we recommended it go back for further rulemaking activity since it's been a long and coming, but we want to get it right and have all the stakeholders input to this. So thanks for the excellent discussion. Right, the next document we have is called is a guideline. It's sexual misconduct and abuse. Mike Farrell made some updates to this. Mike, are you here? Can you? Yes, thank you.
Can
you lead us through this? We did actually recommend that this be approved with these changes, but like Mike to show you the changes.
Here we go. Okay, so this is a guideline on sexual misconduct and abuse. The commission adopted it way back in 1992 and then revised it a number of times. Significantly, the commission adopted rules back in 2006. So here's the guideline. It is essentially a recitation of the rules. It quotes heavily from the rules. The changes that are made on page 2 are simply a reflection of how the rules have changed since the guideline was last adopted. And I added a footnote at the end of page 3 just to talk about a couple of cases that I thought were important. And at the end, it has recommendations to practitioners, which are unchanged.
So the policy committee approved this. Does anyone have any comments about it? No. So yes, Dr. Yu. Sorry, I don't hear you. If you could.
Oh, yesterday at the policy committee meeting, I saw, I read it, and there is one place it says that when the physician or PA does a medical exam, they should recommend to explain to patient what they were doing, right? There is language in there, right? Because I was thinking about the case we just had, you know, sometime patients say, you know, it exposed me, it didn't explain to me, it sometimes caused misunderstanding. I wonder if the guideline would be more explicit to say you should, before you touch somebody or, you know, open up their clothes or somewhere, you should explain, that's what I'm gonna do. And if you don't feel comfortable, please let me know, and something like that to avoid any, you know, misunderstanding or, you know, the situation we had. Yeah, Teresa.
Yeah, that's on section number 6 down there. If you look at number 6, provide a professional explanation of the need for each various component of the examinations, etc.
Okay, so there is,
Page
it is
4 at the bottom. If we could see number 6 there. You can see it on the thing on the what Mike has.
Okay.
It's called provide a professional explanation for need for each of the various components of examinations, procedures, tests, and aspects of care to be given. This can be minimize any misperceptions a patient might have regarding the practitioner's intention and the care being given. So
okay,
it does seem to be covered in it.
Okay. But not everyone does it.
Well, people don't always listen to what the advice is, right? I mean, they have to learn how to be different. And having a complaint hopefully will help them learn. Any other comments? All right. And we take a vote. I don't know if we need a motion. We already had a motion. We don't need a second. So all in favor of accepting this document as is? And anyone opposed? All right, it's approved. All right, the next document is called referral of sexual misconduct cases. And this also is an update. Mike, can you explain some of to us the changes that were made?
Sure. This was a procedure that the commission adopted back in 2008 to implement a new statute which requires all boards and commissions to refer sexual misconduct cases to the secretary unless they involve clinical expertise. So this is a procedure that we adopted back then. It's in dire need of updates. Everything that is changed here is as a result of changes in our process. The most significant one is probably in 5 and 6, steps 5 and 6. Back in 2008, 2009, we had a system where if a complaint of sexual misconduct came in and it was transferred or not transferred, either way, the staff attorney would prepare a memo explaining why, and that memo would be shared with the Department of Health. That was just an ultra safe way to provide documentation and show and be transparent to show exactly the decision-making process. We have found there's not a lot of use for that memo. It takes some time. So in the interest of being more efficient, we have decided, staff has decided to remove that requirement. Also, there's a provision at the very end, number 11, you can see it's crossed out. Back when this was instituted, we were concerned about what if there's a dispute between the commission and the secretary as to who has jurisdiction over the case. Well, in 13 years, we've never had a dispute. We've never had to resort to this process of pulling in a presiding officer to take a look at this. So we're proposing that this be removed as well.
Great, thank you. Well, our policy committee did approve this document. Does anyone have any comments about this? I don't see any hands. So can we take a vote for approving this document? All in favor? Can you raise your hand?
Aye.
Say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, so this document is approved as well. Mike, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I don't oppose. I want to clarify something I just said. I said if there's a dispute between the commission and the department, and that's not what it addresses. It addresses a request by the respondent to object to one or the other having jurisdiction. Just to clarify.
Thanks for clarifying. Does that change anyone's vote in this process? Doesn't look like it. And then the final document is going back for, we did not approve this. Some of the language changes from should, we recommend it changing back to will or must. And Melanie and Mike in particular are going to be working on it because Melanie believed that it really, the change in the wording, even though it seems minor, was actually gave a whole different view, you know, and they ended up being a major change. So this going back to work, we'll bring you back this at our next meeting. That's all the policy report.
Thank you, Karen. Let's move on to member reports. Does anybody have a comment they would like to share with the commission? I see a hand in a corner, and I think it's Jimmy, but I'm not sure. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Are you referring to me or Jimmy Bush?
I think, well, I could see JIMM, so I think I'm referring to you.
Okay. I just have one comment for panel A members. If you could just check your email, your WMC email, there's a timely content there that I'd like you to review before our personal appearance today. So that's all I have.
Teresa?
I'd just like to really thank the staff over the last few months. They've really stepped up to give me a little extra assistance and time as I've been dealing with COVID detail and my mother's passing and all of the other things that have been going on in the world. So I just wanted to really point out that the staff has worked so hard with all of this. I know it's been really difficult for them to be teleworking and not being around each other. And I just wanted to make sure that because we're at the end of the fiscal year, to make sure that we really give kudos to them. They've really done a wonderful job.
Thank you for that comment, Teresa. At this time, I'd just like to mention Dr. Lyle. I don't know if you know or not, but you are on panel A. Okay, you know that. So good.
And Dr. Lyle, as a panel A member, I would say that's sort of the best panel to be on. So welcome to them.
That's certainly debatable.
The gauntlet was tossed.
Dr. Yu?
Yes, I just have a 3-item maybe first two are really maybe interesting to some of you. Some of you may already aware that Washington Patient Safety Coalition and Health Advocate Acts are going to have a virtual screening of a documentary called That Might Hurt, and it's going to be this Sunday at 4 to 6 p.m. And the film is a film screening. It will be talk about the opioid prescribing and the issues that we all concerned about it by the commissioners and the public clinicians. And there will be a follow-up discussions on chronic pain treatment with some advocates and clinicians. So some of you might be interested in required registration. And then the other thing I thought that may be interesting to some of you, as you know, I'm the patient rep on working with American College of Emergency Physician, and recently they formed a task force to revisit their 2009 white paper on excited delirium syndrome. I'm not a physician, you know, I only invited on it to provide the public perspective. And I heard many passionate discussions, and after considering the history, how this term excited delirium syndrome came from and how it's being used by the police especially when they did investigations, and the term come out a lot. And then the potential biases, as well as the medical evidence, the task force has decided to recommend to use hyperactive delirium syndrome rather than, you know, the excited delirium. So I thought that may be interesting to some of you, and they're going to publish a paper on that. And the last thing is I have been serving on the HRQ National Advisory Council for 3 years, and just last week I was invited to serve on the subcommittee. This subcommittee is tasked to provide strategic directions and plans on HRQ's role in quality measurements and future implementation and broader measurements activities by HHS. So I'm very excited about the opportunity and really looking forward to working with a group of highly respected experts on this subcommittee. So I just thought
Thank you, young lady.
Young, could you, I'm sorry, Young, could you share the information with us, maybe an email or something about the screening? That sounds very interesting.
Are there other comments from the commissioners? Dr. Curry?
I just wanted to share that as a follow-up on our health equity work, so we have our health disparity committee, but I was invited to participate in the Federation of State Medical Board ad hoc committee on health equity. So we met a few times and we're drafting a sort of statement around this issue and the impact or the relevance of medical regulation and what role that we can play in moving forward our goals of increasing health equity. So that work's getting done. It was a very interesting process, and I think the Federation of State Medical Boards is doing a great job trying to figure out how we can positively impact to whatever extent we can. And a lot of it is around education, which dovetails with the SB 5992 bill that was passed on health equity, systemic racism, implicit bias type education that will be required coming up in a few years. So I'm also working on that, at least with my organization, and trying to figure out content that can be created and shared. So just wanted to let everyone know it's great work.
Thank you, Dr. Curry. That is really important work that needs to be done. Additional comments? Again, I can't see everybody, so if you have something to say, just speak up. Okay, let's move on to staff reports. The written staff reports begin on page 38. First, ask staff if there are any additions to what's contained in the written reports, and Melanie's shaking her head, so she's not going to say anything. Do the commissioners, any of the commissioners, have any questions about the staff's written reports? Okay, let's then move on to the Heather report.
Yeah, I just have a quick reminder on what to do if you are contacted by a public member or stakeholder or something. A lot of times you'll get some random emails or something from a member of the public or stakeholder. We would just ask that you forward those to Amelia or Melanie to make sure that you know, don't directly answer them or right away. Please just get staff involved and we can figure out what sort of response is needed or if one is needed. I would also say with regard, we've got a lot of rulemaking going on right now. So if you are contacted about rulemaking, make sure and send that to Amelia and Melanie as well. Rulemaking is a formal process and we have to capture any comments, questions, possibly respond to them and make that part of our official rulemaking file. So if you are contacted regarding rules, just make sure and loop in staff as well. You know, we want to make sure that there's not some misperception that certain groups are being heard more than others or special treatment. So just loop in staff if you are contacted by public or stakeholders or anyone to make sure we have an appropriate response. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Heather. That's a great reminder. I get a number of these things and I can't hit the forward button fast enough to send it to staff.
I have a question. This
Yes.
is Tony Borlis. Hi. Heather,
Sure.
I get a lot of like requests on LinkedIn for people to connect that are with groups that are very anti-DOH. Should that information, I just ignore them or decline? I mean, if I don't know someone, I'm not going to connect with them anyway, but should those types of things be sent on?
No, I mean, I think if you're, if you're just declining a request to link with someone or a friend request, that's fine. If they're, you know, emailing you and have questions or comments specific around commission business or questions for you as a commissioner, then forward those on to staff. But if you ever have a question like, what should I do with this? Again, just ask staff and they can loop me in and if need be.
Great, thanks Heather, appreciate it.
Any other questions for Heather? Okay, let's move on to leadership elections. I'll turn the meeting over to the nominating committee at this point.
So at the last meeting, the nominating committee put forth a slate for chair, first vice chair, and second vice chair. All three are currently in the position at the present time. John Malden is the chair now, and our recommendation is that he continue as chair. Claire Trescott is the first vice chair, and our recommendation is that she continue as first vice chair. And Jimmy Chung is the second vice chair, and our recommendation is that he continue. At the last meeting, we asked that people consider any additional candidates for any of those three positions and to please submit them at this meeting. And so I would ask, is there anyone else that would like to submit a name for any of those three positions? I see nobody raising a hand. If there is somebody who does have a additional nomination, please say so vocally.
Alden, Jim Anderson here. I don't have any nominations or any personal interest in any of these positions at this point. But I do have a vision at some point in the future where a PA would be considered for one of these posts. I'm sure that and I don't think there's any prohibition against PAs, but I've never seen a PA in any of these positions. So hopefully it'd be great in the future sometime to have future PAs other than myself be considered for these, because I think that would be a great thing. Thank you.
So Jim, there is absolutely no prohibition against PAs. The probability of any one commissioner, regardless of whether they're a public member or a PA, being selected is about, for these positions, is roughly 3 in 21, or 1 in 7. Neither of the 2 PAs we currently have were eligible because everybody would have rotated off before they would have had an opportunity to become chair. So I'd like to point out that we currently have a public member as chair, and so there is absolutely no prohibition to PAs, and we would welcome whoever replaces you as being a potential for being in the chain to move forward as a executive committee member.
Thanks a lot. That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. As there are no other nominations, I would move that we approve the slate as it stands, which would include John Malden as chair, Claire Trescott as first vice chair, and Jimmy Chung as second vice chair. All in favor, please. Go ahead.
I just said second.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Then all 3, congratulations. We welcome your continued efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Alden. It's just want to say it's been a little bit challenging to be a virtual chair rather than a real chair. Although we've been virtual ever since I've been chair, I don't know what the difference is. So anyway,
It's significant. It's significant.
I can imagine. That concludes the agenda. One last call for comments from any of the commissioners or staff. Going once. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
You all in panels.
John, what happened to the little horn thing, the little thing you blow and stuff?
The duck call.
Oh, the duck call.
I think one of the grandkids got a hold of it, and I'm not sure it's still here even. I'll have to look up that thief and see where it is.
I have to say, I did have somebody recently, I had previously reminded them, no, we changed our name. It's not MQuack or MedQuack anymore. And they gave a presentation and referred to us as the Commission Quack.
An interesting comment. Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.